All right, so far in this domain, we have talked about ancient civilizations in India. On our map, we have the continent Asia, and the country India is outlined in orange. On our map, we can see the Himalayas, the very tall mountains. From these mountains flow two important rivers, the Indus River and the Ganges River. What happens to the Indus River when snow from the Himalayas melted? Yes, it flooded the river. How was this flooding helpful? How was it harmful? You've got it. It was harmful because the floods could destroy things in its path, including houses, but it was helpful because it left fertile soil on the land, which made it easier to grow crops and allowed civilizations to be founded along its banks. One of the things we talked about in civilizations in the Indus River Valley were the key components. What were these components? There were 5 key components of a civilization: a city with large structures, writing, leaders, division of labor or people with certain jobs, and religions. We learned about 2 religions that started in early India. What were those 2 religions? You've got it. It was Buddhism and Hinduism. Today, we are going to learn about civilizations in a different country in Asia. For the next couple of lessons, we will be learning about ancient civilizations in the country China. China is shown on our world map in orange. Today, China has the largest population in the world, over 1 billion people, with even more people than India, which also has more than 1 billion people. Early civilization in India began near a river, the Indus River. Today's read aloud is about 2 important rivers in China, the Yellow and the Yangtze River. The Yellow River is a river that flows through China's northeastern lands. The Yellow River was the home of the first Chinese civilization. The Yangtze River is the longest river in China and the 3rd longest river in the entire world. Plateaus. Plateaus are high, wide, flat ground. For example, on his vacation to the Grand Canyon, Mac took pictures of many natural bridges and plateaus. Silt. Silt is a mixture of soil, sand, and clay. For example, Terence caught a fish with silt all over its fins. Sorrow. Sorrow is pain or suffering caused by a loss. For example, Alex felt deep sorrow when his little kitten was missing for 3 days. Turn to your friend or whoever is there helping you and explain how someone might express sorrow. What might they do to show that they are experiencing sorrow? All right, my friends, I'm going to read a couple of situations in which someone is expressing sorrow. I want you to explain how you might help the person feel better. Help the person who is experiencing sorrow feel better. All right, our first one. Lucy's little brother, who is learning to walk, stumbles and falls and starts to cry. How would you help Lucy's little brother? Next, your best friend lost her favorite toy in the park. How could you help your friend? And next, there is a new student in your class who just moved and is missing his old friends. How could you help that new student? All right, my friends, let's start learning about ancient China. The Tigris, the Euphrates, the Nile, the Indus, the Ganges. When you hear these names, what do you see in your mind? What do they have in common? Right, they are all rivers. What is special about these 5 rivers? These ancient rivers supplied the water needed for the world's very first civilizations. Along the banks of the Tigris and Euphrates in ancient Mesopotamia, people worked together to grow food, build cities, and develop a way of writing. Pyramids were built up and down the Nile River in Egypt. And in Asia, the Indus and Ganges, snaking their way through India and Pakistan, have long been worshipped for their life-giving waters. Today, we are going to learn about the Yellow River and the Yangtze River, 2 more rivers that belong to this special group. These 2 rivers, divided by the high, snow-capped Bayankala Mountains, are the 2 longest rivers in China. They, too, are places where early civilizations began. More people live in the Yellow and Yangtze River valleys today than in any other region on Earth. High up in the mountains, where the Yellow River begins, its waters are very clear. But as it travels its long route through the high plateaus of the Bayankala Mountains, its color changes. Look at the picture and see if you can guess what makes the water turn yellow. What do you think? Rain and wind wash the silt, a fine mixture of soil, sand, and clay, from the mountains into the river, making it a muddy yellow color. As this happens, the river bottom rises. And if the river bottom rises, what do you think happens to the water in the river? It rises too. And then what happens? Right. The river overflows its banks, flooding the land on either side of it. Does this sound familiar? What other rivers have we learned about that flood? Is this flooding good or bad? We've already learned the importance of flooding and creating fertile lands for crops, but when large rivers like the Yellow River flood, they can also destroy whole cities. For this reason, the Chinese have given the Yellow River 2 nicknames, Mother River and China's Great Sorrow. Sorrow is a feeling of deep sadness caused by the loss of something or someone, or by some disappointment. The Yellow River often causes China's people sadness and pain when it floods. The Yangtze River, China's longest river, lies to the south of the Yellow River. There, the temperature is much warmer, and flooding is less of a problem. The Yangtze River is named after an ancient place that was near the river. Its fertile valley is sometimes called China's Rice Bowl because its temperate climate, or type of weather that is neither extremely hot nor extremely cold throughout the year, is perfect for growing rice. So the climate and fertile soil of the Yangtze River Valley make it perfect for growing which crop? Rice. Wheat and millet, used in making bread and noodles, grow well along the Yellow River. But rice, the main crop of China, had its beginnings along the Yangtze. Together, these 2 river valleys form the country's greatest food-producing region. The Chinese have always been inventors. Many of their inventions changed the way people farmed, making the river valleys more and more productive. For example, the ancient Chinese invented seed planting. Instead of scattering seeds on top of the earth, they developed seed drills used for planting seeds in ordered rows. They invented iron plows and harnesses so that horses or oxen could easily pull the plows. And to get water from low ground to the crops planted on higher ground, the Chinese invented a pump to irrigate the fields. These inventions are still used today. Because they were inventive people, farming became easier for the Chinese people. More and more nomadic people, that means people who have no set home and move often to find food, began to settle permanently along the banks of the two great rivers, where food was abundant. Then, the same thing happened in China that happened in Mesopotamia, Egypt, and India. Cities emerged. Many separate cities and areas sprang up along the banks of the rivers, each led by a powerful king. The kings ruled over the people, much like the pharaohs of ancient Egypt. The people built walls, houses, and temples. They made tools and weapons of wood, stone, bronze, and iron. They also built boats. And with the invention of copper coins, they began to trade with one another up and down both rivers. As they traded and farmed, the Chinese continued inventing new tools and systems. One of these was writing, which we will learn about later. Remember, writing is an important trademark of any civilization.
All right, my friends, we have finished our first story about our new country that we're learning about. We learned about two very important rivers in this country, the Yangtze and the Yellow River. What country are those rivers located in? You've got it, China. And what continent is China located in? Asia. You guys are good. All right, what is it that makes the Yellow River yellow? Why did we give it the name the Yellow River? You've got it. It's a combination of all the sand and silt and clay that it picks up as it travels through the high plateaus. All right, the Chinese also nicknamed the Yellow River the Mother River and China's Great Sorrow. Why do you think that the river earned those two nicknames, the Mother River and China's Great Sorrow? Why do you think they chose those nicknames for the Yellow River? Yes, just like the Indus River that we learned about in ancient India, the Yellow River provides fertile soil for crops that makes it possible for them to form civilizations, but it also has great destructive power and often floods. All right, they call the Yangtze River, the valley that the Yangtze River is in, the Yangtze River Valley, they call that China's rice bowl. Why do you think they call that China's rice bowl? You've got it. They grow rice there. The climate there is perfect for growing rice, and the soil is so fertile and it is able to grow very well. All right. What special jobs do you think that people might have had along the Yellow and Yangtze rivers? What do you think people did for jobs around those two rivers? There are lots of things. We know there were lots of farmers. They could have been builders or stonemasons. There's a lot of different things that they could have done along the river. All right, my friends. We talked about some inventions that the Chinese developed in order to make farming easier on them. Turn and tell whoever's helping you, your neighbor, your mom, whoever's there with you, tell them one of the inventions that the Chinese developed that made farming easier for them. All right, my friends, just like with our ancient Indian civilizations, I've made an ancient Chinese civilization chart. This has the same categories. I know they're a little bit hard to see. The Chinese civilization chart has all of the components that are necessary for a civilization, including cities, jobs, leaders, writing, and religion. Today, the first one I want to talk about is religion. In previous lessons, we learned about Buddha, the man who started the religion Buddhism. Buddhism started in ancient India, but it was widely practiced in ancient China as well. And just like Hinduism, it is widely practiced all over the world today. But because Buddhism was just as important a part of ancient China as it was in ancient India, it will go on both of our charts. So we'll put Buddha right there under religion. We are also going to talk today about jobs. Again, just like ancient India, one of the most important jobs was farming. In this picture, we see the Yellow River. We can see all of these crops along the bottom here that were grown along the Yellow River. Farming was a very important job in ancient civilizations. Civilizations could not start if there was no food to feed the people in a civilization. So farming is one of our most important jobs. And lastly, for today, I want to talk about cities. In ancient China, people built cities with homes for people to live in, just like this one that we can see along the banks of the Yellow River. I'm going to put this one under our cities chart. All right, my friends. Our last thing that we're going to do today, we're going to work on our map. We're going to add a couple of the places that we learned about on our map. I'm going to go over to my computer and pull up that PDF and show you what we're going to do and what geographical features we're going to add.
Okay, when you open that PDF, it's going to be sideways. So we need to flip it so that it's right side up. To do that, we're going to go to our menu bar. That's up here in the symbol that has the 3 bars. When we click on the menu, we're going to click rotate clockwise so that our map is facing the right way. Remember, this is a map of the continent Asia. We have been talking about the country India and 2 important rivers, the Indus and Ganges River. Today, we're going to talk about the 2 other important rivers that we learned about in a different country in Asia. That country is China. With me on your PDF, I want you to outline the border of the country China in purple. We're going to outline China in purple. I'm going to follow this line as best as I can, but there are going to be times when I'm not right on the line, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just do the best you can. All right, my friends, here we go. All the way down. China is a very large country and is the most populous country in the world. That means that more people live in China than anywhere else in the world. China shares a border with ancient India, so it's going to be very close to that orange line that we already drew to represent ancient India. I'm going to use my text box to label the country that I just outlined. I want to remember that this purple line is China. We're going to put China over here. Oh, whoops. We're going to keep China over there. I also want to label these important mountains. These are the Bayan Mountains in China, where our rivers run from. I'm going to label them. We're not going to color our Bayan Mountains. We're just going to label them. But I'm going to move my label so that I can see it. The Bayan Mountains. From the Bayan Mountains, there are two important rivers. The first river that we talked about was the Yellow River. Remember, the Yellow River is called the Yellow River because the water mixes with silt from the mountains, which turns the water a murky yellow color. Because it's called the Yellow River, we're going to outline it in yellow. Oh, I still have my text box. I need my drawing tool, not my text box. And we're going to use yellow to outline our Yellow River. The Yellow River has two nicknames: Mother River, because it gives life and allows people to grow crops, and China's Great Sorrow, because it causes sorrow when it floods. And I'm going to label it so I don't forget that that's what that yellow line is. The Yellow River. The other river that we talked about is south of the Yellow River. This river is the Yangtze River. Flooding is less of a problem in the area around the Yangtze River because the climate is warmer. This climate allows for a certain crop to grow very well. That crop is rice. I'm going to use my drawing tool. Oh, that's not what I wanted. I'm going to outline the Yangtze River in green. Again, your line does not have to be perfect. Make sure you are adding these additions to your map along with me. We are also going to label the Yangtze River. There we go. All right, my friends, the rivers that we have already learned about were the Indus River in India and the Ganges River. We talked about Mohenjo-Daro, a civilization that was founded on the banks of the Indus River. These two rivers, the Yellow and Yangtze rivers, and China, allowed for civilizations to flourish in China as well. I'm going to read a couple of statements about these four rivers. I want you to guess which river I'm talking about, or which river my statement is true about. This river is sacred to Hindu people. Which river is sacred to Hindu people? The Ganges River. This river has two nicknames: Mother River and China's Great Sorrow. It is the Yellow River. This river is China's longest river, and flooding is less of a problem with this one. That is the Yangtze River in green. And our last one, this river flooded from the snow melting from the Himalayas. If it's from the Himalayas, we know it's going to be one of these rivers in India where the Himalayan mountains are at. That river is the Indus River. All right, my friends, when your map looks like mine, go ahead and turn it in.